So yes, you're not gonna believe what is going on in the market. I'm just getting back from the Terranea Resort with the privilege with Sotheby's to be at the Terranea in Palos Verdes, California, about 90 minutes south of Ventura, where I did a couple years in college, so it's got a little bit of a homecoming. But you're not gonna believe what we uncovered. We do these annual conferences, sometimes biannual. Level Up's the funnest one. They've got the best speakers, entertainment. They're really giving us the knowledge, the data when it comes to AI, when it comes to digital marketing, when it comes to data and how to read it, how AI is reading it, how consumers are starting to read it. People just like yourselves are chatting everything, and there's issues with hallucinations that the chat might have. Google has its own AI, which we're hearing is supposed to be even better than the chat. So if you're using the chat, you might want to look at Google. But what we uncovered, particularly about women owners, because people are going to get properties not through just purchasing, but there's a lot of inheritances that are going to happen in the next 20 years. Millennial buyers, as well as people moving up and down, how it affects on a national level, a state level, and of course, at the level and location that we are here in Ventura. This is Living Coastal in Ventura, and you're going to want to stay tuned for this. So first of all, I enjoy doing what I do. I get to meet people like you and help answer the questions, dispel any myths, and help you through the journey. It's the hand holding through all of the things that you could chat, and probably get some information on. But then there's that 50-50 where you've got the information, but is this a moment to lean into this or to back out the door? And that's really where our expertise come in. I'm a local here in Ventura, the city of Ventura. Grew up in Camarillo. Went to school at Marymount, like I alluded to before, which was actually the junior college, so not Loyola, but the junior college that was on Palos Verdes. And I've also lived in Santa Cruz. That's where I graduated. So between friends and visiting, it's the coastal California that I know the best. And through doing events like what we had at the Terranea, I like to tell you about it because it lets you know that I'm networking with the top agents who are at the top of their level on both coasts. I have a great network with people from Boston to New York City right now, and the Hamptons. I'm really excited about them. But I really like to focus because what I see in my community, in my neighborhood, is I see Ventura as being the place that coastal people who love to surf, run, bike, fish, kayak, who love that ocean breeze and just kind of living near the water with their toes in the sand, they tend to move here, while others might, if they're not drawn to that lifestyle, they might leave California if they're not satisfied with something that's motivating them to move. Be like, well, my La Jolla is changing, or my Los Angeles, my Santa Monica is changing, my Redondo is changing, or I grew up here in Redondo, Hermosa, but I can't buy here. My parents bought a long time ago, and I'm not gonna afford a $2 or $4 million home, but you can get something pretty nice for 1.5 here in Ventura. So we're that place that's really on the map now, post-COVID, the food scene that's happening with our downtown. We are adjacent to Ojai. It's the pathway to get there. And people are really starting to learn about cities like Santa Paula. They're starting to learn about the equestrian in Camarillo. They're starting to learn about the beaches in Ventura and realizing that most of the Santa Barbara surf scene is taking place down here. I just got out of the water today. Pite is free. It's one of our little secret spots. It's a point break that people don't even know about. I was down there at Terranea again, conversing with one of our Inland Valley surfers, and he was a surfer. I said, I think I might have seen you at the C Street. He had one of those real, recognizable mustaches, as a lot of that millennial hipster generation does. You gotta get the good beard. You gotta earn these grays, I told him. But I was telling him about this spot, and he didn't know about it, and it's kind of cool. Like, our locals like to hear it, so for any of the locals, we still have some secrets. And I do make content for locals. In fact, I focus on the local community. So if you're watching, from another country, town, city, state, it's pretty detailed. It takes deep dives into neighborhoods and locations. And it's really made for locals because my primary buyer is going to be someone that I know or someone that's in my network of realtors, it's moving from one of these coastal cities, or someone who's moving from Oxnard to Ventura, Ventura to Ojai, Ojai to Ventura, Oxnard to Camarillo. That's a really common one. Oxnard's great. It's got a lot of ups and downs. And I was telling someone the other day, it's actually the most diverse of our three main cities, Ventura, Camarillo, and Oxnard is the most diverse in cultural backgrounds, as well as in housing and amenities. So it's our lowest price neighborhoods and our highest price neighborhoods. Not everyone in Camarillo and Ventura realize that, but the marina and the beaches of Oxnard actually yield the highest prices. And if you guys haven't seen the marina in Oxnard, they were going to call it Channel Islands, they're going to call it Oxnard by the Sea. There was a lot of deliberation on what they were going to name it, but it's our Oxnard marina, and it's just gorgeous. It's literally Venice by the sea, and there's even a small business that's being there. And my wife and I went when in our honeymoon phase, we actually went and did the gondola ride, and it was so special. We knew that for our honeymoon we'd actually be going to Venice to do that gondola ride, and we did. So it was nice to do both. And I'll tell you what, Oxnard was much cleaner, than Venice. Venice is historic and it's beautiful, but Oxnard has something special going on too. So for our Tri-Cities, there tends to be migration patterns. So first-time home buyers might really aim to be in Midtown, which is kind of the center of Ventura. They might aim to be in Midtown if they can't afford beach, beachfront, or hillside, which is the luxury move-in. Remember, I alluded to that millennial buyer. We'll get back to that in a minute. So if people are looking for that starter home, they tend to want to aim for Midtown. It gets a lot of attention. That's because it's squeezed between the hillside, the premium properties that are 2 to 4 million, and the beach, which are all 2 to 4, and 5 and up. We don't really hit a lot in the 10 million range here in Ventura, the city of Ventura. So we're really not known as a luxury market with big grand luxury properties as much as Santa Barbara is, or Malibu. But we do have really fine properties and fine estates. And what you'll notice is that it's becoming that way. We had the Thomas Fire. There's still lots available. There's still people building new homes and building to that luxury level. And we'll get into what the difference between a luxury home is, a starter home, as well as kind of your standard homes. So back to migrations, we see people wanting to land and wanting to be in that Midtown. If they can't get Midtown, they've really got two options. If they want to stay in Ventura, of course they could go to Camarillo or Oxnard and get more for their dollar. But a lot of times when people want to live in Ventura, they want to be close to that water and the freeway. That's the big difference between Ventura and Oxnard. Is Oxnard, you might be a little deeper, a little way, and you might have a lot of congestion and lights to get to the freeway. But there's some really excellent places in Oxnard as well. So the Ventura migrations, people try to land in Midtown. If they can't, they've got that decision. Do I move to the west end or the east end? In the past, the west end was a little kind of rough and tough. It still, has issues. There's still a homeless there. There's still a little bit of a gang element there. And it's not as prettied up as Midtown. Midtown, I'd say, has really arrived. It has the wine bars. It has the plant shops. It has that really nice lifestyle that's walkable, bikeable, and close to everything. So it really has arrived through the last down market of the 10, 11, 12 into 14 and 15 pre-pandemic. The homes have really arrived too. They used to be termite infested, rotting roofs, wood rot, no paint, chip paint. And there were some pretty streets, the island streets. But what happened was people were so into the price and the lifestyle of Ventura that it really started to get on the map. Men's Journal, different publications started to really recognize Ventura, but people were finding it anyways. And it kind of always was a feeder market from people who were living in Santa Barbara, maybe in Carpinteria. Maybe they couldn't afford that, so they would come on down to Ventura, and they could live here, still have their lifestyle, their friends in Santa Barbara, and own a piece of real estate, not be stuck in the rental game. And a lot of people who live here now are in the rental game, and they're really in tune to it. So if that's you, the information that I'm getting into, you're really gonna wanna know this, because I currently have a client who opted for that second one instead of the east end wanted to move to the west end. The property had a rental unit, and he's got a good job. He's got a great job, has income, owns a property already, wants to keep that as rental and move into this one. So that way he'd have a little bit more space. And he's analyzing the logistics of it. But the more of that chat GPT and getting these recommendations, they were just unrealistic expectations of how many inspections to get and trying to ask a seller to pay for it. And there's ways to get discounts when you want to write offers. It's price and terms. So you want to give something in the name of terms to show that you can perform to be able to get the price that you want. Now, first of all, you've got to establish that market value. And the mistake he's making is because there's always going to be negativity in the news. And sometimes that negativity is good. And we have seen prices reduce. We do have this idea that interest rates are going to come down. But inventory is the big key. And the reason why we're really unlikely to be in the type of market we saw in that last recession, because we really haven't seen a down market or a 3/4 down in pricing since that 8, 9, and 10. So one of the things I would allude to is establishing market value. Chat's just not going to do it either. And you can't just pick your lowest comparable. That's going to be a home price that sold. Your comparables, you're going to have a low and a high, and there's going to be an average. So the lows might be 7.5, the highs might be 9.5. And it is an accumulation. So if it's a mid-range home, it's likely going to be in that mid-range price at 825, 850. Now, if it isn't as glamorous, where it looks like all the walls were drywalled, the roof is new, plumbing, electric is new and replaced, the floors are done, the bathroom's done, the kitchen is bomb, and you've got this Balinese killer feel, Spanish style mix, that's been getting $950 for like the last three years on the West End. In Midtown, that's probably getting $1.1 to $1.2. And if it has a second unit, probably even more. So there's a discrepancy on how much the seller's really going to let it go, or in that they can't just rent it out and make more in the future on a sale. So what we're going to see is we're going to see a holding pattern, and we saw it already as soon as interest rates started going up 3 years ago. We saw the first holding pattern, and that's what I call the peak of the peak, where we hit a COVID peak, and then we hit another spike after. It kind of dipped a little. There was another spike after, because as inventory got thin, the demand, it was any property in neighborhood, so demand was so high it would just go up. So what we're going to see now is we're actually seeing things have actually reduced. They've slid off, but we're going to see it kind of flatten out for 2026. That's what we're going to see. And the inventory is huge. So some of that data, let me drop some of this. So down to 177. So our units for sale up as high as 210. And I said in those past videos, I told you guys, I said, listen, if it goes to 220 or 230, we'll see the increase, and we'll probably see more reductions in pricing. Now, while we still might see reductions into 2026, we're not seeing inventory go up out of season to create a sitting or a standing inventory that becomes dull, stale, and requires low ball offers to move. We're not there yet. Another client had said, oh, this one's been on 40 days. Maybe it'll be 40 days is nothing in real estate. We just sold one that was on for 2 years. Now, granted, it was in Upper Ohio. It was really hard to get to. We did a ton of marketing, and it was hard to get people to go up there. Beautiful home, beautiful land, totally unique. But we started at 2.2, or we actually started at 2.4. We probably should have started at 2 to 2.2. And what we realized now is 2.2 was really the number, but we should have even been under. We probably sold it somewhere between 2 and 2.2. So these buyers got the place for 1.8. They actually got 200,000 under. And those are the types of things that can happen when a seller wants to list too high and just see how it goes. You're actually going to bleed into your equity that you would get if you didn't just go at market value. So right now for our November inventory, if you're a seller and you're in Camarillo, Ventura, Oxnard, or Ojai, and you're looking to sell your home, whether you call me up or not, pay attention, look at the comps. You can do it yourself. You can do it with ChatGPT, but look at your realtor's CMAs, look at the data, be very honest with the condition of your home. If it's not a cream puff modern, and I mean modern like within the last 5 years, of really having the finishes and kind of having that bohemian look, or something that's timeless. If it's not those, like an A, then you're in the middle, and that's where it is. So you've got to take the average of those numbers, and that peak is kind of your starting point. So you're between there and the bottom. Now, if it's a fixer, if you can point out 4 or 5 things like, well, yeah, we need a roof, and it should probably be painted, the floors are done, or they're from a different time, a different era that makes it feel like grandma's house, those premium buyers aren't going to come in. Premium buyers, who are the premium buyers? I alluded to this before. So right now, for the first time ever, this is the big energy. This is the big moment. The millennials are at the youngest age of starting out in luxury. That means 1, 2, 1, 5, 2 million for our general area, and even more. And the reason is because of this. They're starting out with some of the highest incomes. They're working in tech. They're working in AI. They're working for Netflix. They have these jobs that produce the high liquidity, a high income, but they're also the recipient, because you have the baby boom generation and the silent generation skipping X, which is me. We've got the burden of taking care of our parents and our kids, and we're the thinnest cohort, so it's going to be tough, but we'll manage. But what they're doing, and I like this part. I like that they're gifting, and they're giving these DPs, these down payments, at a moment that will make a difference in their grandchild's life, where they can get in and they can start, because those luxury properties are going to continue to go up. And it's almost like the more you can afford, the more it's going to appreciate in doubling. The monetary policy of this country is to print money. Now, although we're in the middle of a government shutdown right now, eventually they're going to finish that. And eventually they're going to have the data they need to cut interest rates. And eventually, with all this prolonging, there's going to be a big problem in some financial sector. And the solution is going to be, time to say it, yes, they're going to print and stimulate the economy. What that happens to the value of the dollar is it's going to go down. So I almost have to get out of my real estate expertise, which is the transactions, quality of the home, trust wills, etc., and get into that financial aspect of it. That if we know that this is consistently going to happen, we know that it's going to be a good time to buy. As long as we're financially fit for those payments, and we can make that purchase as if it was going to carry flat, then it's a good idea. If you don't do it, it's not just that it's not going to carry flat, but that value of the dollar is going to go down. And if you're renting or staying where it's at, your appreciation is only going to be where it is. But if you get in and you buy, as that goes down, it creates that appreciation. It creates the values going up, and that's where we see these $500,000 properties being sold for $1 million. See the $1 million properties become 2. That's the big saying. The 2 is the new 1. And those are nice homes. And really, 2 million is the inflection point for this area, this local 805 and a little beyond, is the inflection point for entry-level luxury. Entry-level luxury, we're going to see those millennials that have high income, and we're going to see the pre-retirees. So people that are maybe in their 50s, maybe their early 60s, they're not retired yet, they expect to live a long time, they're healthy, they have good income, they have good things set up, and they want to buy a nice house. They got to get a good house, en suites, lots of bells and whistles, and you're getting that $2 to $2.5 million range. Now, once you hit that 3 number and up, that's when it gets sticky. You see so much more inventory, 25 units in every city per 1, 2, or 3 that are selling. And it's just magnified because you have all these luxury homes that aren't moving right now. That's something to pay attention to. So if you're a millennial and you have a good income and you have estate help coming down for your parents, like, now is the time for you, because you've got this wide base of inventory of motivated sellers, of these downsizers that want to get out of there. It's too much for them. Now, a lot of them have pie in the sky ideas of where their homes are listed, but if they're really motivated, they're gonna make a deal. And you've got to get out there and write offers, because you don't know who's motivated until you put pen to paper. I'll tell you that right now. You know, picking up the phone, no, I'm not going to use a realtor, I'm going to do this myself and call them. That's always the toughest thing, is principal to principal, because there's an honesty that isn't happening. They're all just playing games with each other. And our job is to cut through that. We're good at it. We're really good at having conversations and seeing where people really are without being, high pressure. So if you are a millennial, that's a great time for you. Now, most people are buying single family homes in all the 805 between 800 and 1.2. Now, $1 million house sounds big, 1.2 sounds big, but it's kind of like the new average of something nice. Once you hit $1 million to 1.1, you're gonna get something that's pretty put together, really doesn't need a lot of help or fixing, and you have some quality. Now, if you can go from 1.2 to 1.4, it really steps up, because that's when it starts to get wide, when you start to have a wider inventory and more selection. The trouble is most of those buyers that are hitting that 1.4, 1.5, 1.6, those are the downsizers. Okay, so the trouble with the retirees downsizing, if that's you, you're trying to sell your house for maybe 2.5 or 3, and you're trying to buy something nice at 1 million, but you actually have to spend up to 1.4, 1.5 to get something nice. And you've got to sell your house for maybe not 3 or maybe 2.5, so you're taking a $500,000 haircut and coming up. That's the toughest one right now, is that move down. You have the most competition. There are more sellers wanting to move, and it's quiet out there in the data points, but it's loud in the open houses and our interactions with talking to people. They don't even have their homes on the market yet, but we know they want to move. We know a ton of people off market that they want to move. So what we see in 2026, a prediction for 2026, is that we're gonna see more people being realistic. So those expireds, if they try to hit their number or think that the market went up, not see you later, they're just gonna be the ones sitting there. But the ones that bring their prices down, they might get that millennial buyer, that strong buyer that wants more house, that has the youthful energy, the family to fill up those properties. The single level homes that retirees want to move down into, those are not a dime a dozen. Those are going to be the cherries that everybody's looking for. So if you're a move down buyer, it's going to be tougher. If you're a move up buyer and you have the big income, great. If you don't have the big income, it's going to be tough, because there is a pretty big discrepancy when you're going up $1 million. So you've got to have a good income. You've got to have, or maybe if you don't have that income, then maybe you're one who's going to receive the inheritance. And it could be Gen Xers. They might be getting some, but a lot of times the Gen Xers have gone through, they're taking care of themselves, they're fine. And what we're seeing is grandma and grandpa, great grandma and grandpa, they want to help, the kids, the Gen Xers kids, who are actually, having their own kids. So it's almost that 4th and 5th generation passing all the way down to help them out. And it's going to be the biggest transfer of wealth that's going on for the next 20 years. It's already begun. We deal with it all the time. And those are the big sellers. The sales are going to happen as someone passes away. There's an inheritance. They want the property to move. So those are your motivated sellers. But those motivated sellers, when they sell that, they liquidate the property, they distribute some funds. So then if those people who receive it, maybe it's to help them get on their feet, but maybe they're in a great financial situation, then they're the ones that are going to be making the next purchase. The hardest folks, so going back to my guy who wanted to buy this property, is to see all that liquidity, because he's looking at the market from his own perspective, that he's pulling himself up from his bootstraps, which, yes, good for you, great, you've done awesome, you've done incredible. But to keep the ball rolling, you have to take that risk. And if you can't afford it, and if the rents are covering most of it, it's kind of a go for it opportunity. Now, it doesn't have to be a property that requires a lot of fixes. It's got to be the right one that you're comfortable with. But the moment is now. We've got a little bit of this 25. We're probably going to see more of it in 2026. But barring some catastrophe, I really think 27, 28, 29, we're going to see the market go up. We'll probably be in that monetary printing policy again. We're going to see inflationary again. And that's the direction we're going to go. And that's just devaluation of the dollar, all of the crypto that's happening with Ethereum and Bitcoin. We're going to probably see a digital US dollar as well. And we're just going to see changes. So that US dollar, that fiat currency, is going to cause inflation and cause home prices to go up. So stay open-minded. If you guys haven't dabbled in cryptocurrency yet, just do some education. You don't have to buy anything yet. maybe buy a little bit, because when you actually take that risk and do it, participate in it just a little bit, you're going to be along for the ride. You're going to learn things faster and you'll get more comfortable with it. So it's about learning. So put a little bit in just to learn, and then you'll be along for the ride. But I really believe that we're going to see a lot more crypto purchases for real estate sales, and it's going to do some wild things with the numbers. So just be ready for that. And then the big takeaway for the inventory is I'm actually seeing inventory come down 177 as we go into November, the seasoning period, which is natural, which is a real market. So feel comfortable. This isn't a pressure moment. This is a feel comfortable that you're going to be able to sit in this environment for a little while. But I don't think it's longer than 2026. And at some point, the rates, I don't want to see a big rate drop. I like the incremental, and let's keep this moving. Let's keep a nice flat as prices come down and rate comes down. We're just going to have this nice little flat, soft landing. For the environment to be so bad that they have to cut interest rates, like slash them, well, that's not good. What we'll probably end up seeing is we'll probably see the elite buy up everything. So we don't want to see that. So the biggest way to compete against the elite owning everything is to take a little risk. Invest in a little bit to grow your down payment. If you're not one of these lucky people who are going to get the down payment from Legacy, and buy something. Start somewhere. Even if it's $500,000 or $250,000, buy something. You can have it as a rental. You can get something in Bakersfield for $200,000. Buy something, watch it grow. Let it grow, have a rental, have that income look good for the financial institution when your time gets better. But it's really about taking action, getting involved, and making it happen. So thanks so much again for watching. This is really October's data was 77, and we had 90. We had some of our highest closings. This month that we did all year. That's for the city of Ventura. So really important stuff, you guys. Pay attention to that. The absorption was right around 79 or 80 in escrow. So we're going to continue to see those closings and escrows happen. What we're seeing go down is the inventory. But I do believe in January and February, especially that was it the first week of February. The last 2 years, those were some of the biggest, most exuberant markets that we had. So if you're a seller, you want to be on for that first week of February. And if you're a buyer, you want to be paying attention to that moment to see how inflection it is, because I don't have a crystal ball, and if we tend to have something bigger happen, they might cut the rates even more, they might sustain, but I think we're going to see inventory really pick up at that moment. The pre-spring fling, I like to call it, is that winter time before you're competing against the other spring sellers, and then on into April, March, and May, we'll see more inventory. They'll carry out through the summer, but it's really a normal real estate market, and this is where it is. This is where values are, and there's so much legacy involved. That's why they're staying there. Okay, so we got a little bit of a hook with the headline, but this is where they're staying. We've got time. We've got a year to shop for you if you're buying or selling. Thanks so much. This is Jeff Belzer. We'll see you soon.